thank you for a kind introduction. And I'm also very happy that such topic as emerging technologies that disrupt our lives in both positive and to less extent negative ways, that it has its own day at ARDD, and that we are also looking into opportunities that it can bring. So today I am talking about something that actually really blew my mind, that probably many of you pretty recently saw when ChatGPT emerged. It was, at least for me, it was kind of a shock how cool it can become. And if you look into this chart, you can see that to get 100 million users, it took only 5 days. And what we are seeing now is that after this coming out, actually pretty much every day we get more and more large language models, and every day something new come up, and the pace of development is really crazy. Like every day something happens. And of course, we are in aging research, and we are always thinking how we can actually apply it for our research and for our benefit. And here actually I have many faces and facets, and here I am mostly talking about my open source activities. So I was also thinking what I can do with it, and I started a project in May called Longevity Genie. And here I want to share with you some of my experience. And here I will mostly focus on pragmatic things. So before that, I was actually doing some stuff with explanatory machine learning. So I'm more from applied field. And by the way, nice paper. Me as an author, you can cite it if you want. And in my case, I started looking into some practical use cases, and some of you know that I am involved in development of Just-DNA-Seq, open source personalized genomics platform. By the way, we have a nice poster and workshop today. And I started actually looking into, so here is my personal genetic reports, and I was starting to look at what I can actually use large language models to tell about my genetics. And I started asking questions, and what I actually discovered, so here you see obviously screenshots from ChatGPT that for popular stuff like APOE, because it's everywhere in newspapers, it had some knowledge. But for most of the variants, actually it knew nothing, and it just said a lot of general stuff without telling anything specific. So the first problem is actually that it doesn't know biology and some in-depth aging research knowledge. It's not only about genetics. I tested a lot of other scientific questions. The other problem is then for things when it knows something, it often hallucinates. So here you can see popular, I think they actually fixed it, at least for APOE, but from time to time you get fake references, and overall it usually even doesn't know how it knows what it knows, almost like me. And also another problem that many people are surprised is that actually you kind of expect to ask large language models that they will make something deep and logical, but they are actually really terrible at logic. So for example, here, if the moon is not square, then the moon is square. That's a premise, and ChatGPT thinks it's logical. And also some problems with math as well. And it happens that I was just thinking about those things until Zuzalu hackathon happened in May. So for those of you who don't know, Zuzalu was a 2-month event, like a pop-up city devoted to longevity, crypto, AI, network states. So here is a picture from our town hall. I think it's more like a village, but still kind of nice place. And we wanted to like come up with a project idea, and me and Newton Winter, also known as Nikolai Usanov, so we came to the idea that here are like the limitations that I mentioned, and we have to overcome it and apply it to some aspects of aging research. And if you look like a general, so it's actually, I took it from some deep learning AI course, but it's a nice schema, is that you look, you define the use case like we did for genetics, you select the models, and when we started, open source models were pretty bad. It's not the case now, but for ChatGPT, the only thing what was possible is actually prompt engineering. You couldn't fine tune it, you couldn't do RLHF or some other stuff. So we focused on kind of orchestrations that you have calling the API, and you have like a lot of consecutive calls to ChatGPT, and you also provide some external sources. So one of the use cases, I wanted to have a baseline. So I have very nice, you can see FOXO gene variants that are pro-longevity. And I wanted to ask, so I needed to see how ChatGPT-4 answers. And you can see that it didn't answer well because it lacked information. There was another initiative of my friend and collaborator, Nikhil Yadala. So he, actually even before Zuzalo hackathon, he wrote some code that, so there is like a service called Semantic Scholar. And he queried the service to give additional data to ChatGPT. And there was a limitation. He could only get like 100 paper, and he had to search by keywords first. But here you can see that it's a bit better. It's still not good, but a bit better result. So I had an idea that, okay, that just querying papers is one thing, but there are like many data sources, and let's like be a Swiss knife to like, okay, let's integrate with longevity GPT. So I talked with Nikhil. Also, actually, we didn't really integrate in the end, but he was really helpful. Then to deal with different databases and data sources. And like we thought, okay, it should look like magic, so we called it Longevity Genie. So our first results was a bot, and we had some nice results. Unfortunately, it was not really stable. So for FOXO, it went really well, but in some cases, it didn't get really good results. And what exactly we did? So we did similar stuff that Nikhil does. So it's called retrieval augmented generation. In other words, you just provide additional context to your large language models. Those of you who didn't work with them, well, technically, ChatGPT is a decoder-based model. That means that you get like input like words here, and words are split into tokens. Usually it's one word or some part of a word. And then what it does, it just generates the next token based on the context that was generated before. And we say in context learning when we already gave our query, so it's part of a context. We can also give additional data from databases. It's also like in context learning. And another thing that is important is embeddings, because when we have our like query, some question about something, if we put it like literally to a text search, because it's a question that has many words, it will not find much. So you have to use other techniques, and embeddings is just most of machine learning. They learn some representation of the words, like you see here, three-dimensional, but actually it's millions of dimensions. And words that are similar, they are closer together. That means that we can intersect, like you see cats and dogs are closer, bananas and apples are closer. So we can do similarity search between different sources and our query. So what we did, we actually wanted originally to try original embeddings of ChatGPT, but we computed it would be like about $50,000 to actually get several 100,000 papers there. But then we discovered that actually it's not the best embedding. So here you see Hugging Face leaderboard, and actually it's only the place 13. That surprisingly, that there are general embeddings like BG large that are better on, 12 embeddings are better actually on general tasks like summarization, clustering, and so on. And a bunch of embeddings like BioLinkBird that are good for biological texts. So we actually downloaded Semantic Scholar corpus. So they have like a corpus of, so I think it's 12 million abstracts and 1 million full texts. Well, I was not really patient, so I just did some filtering and just indexed 80,000 longevity papers with 2 of those embeddings. I put it, so actually this part was done already after the hackathon. So at hackathon we had less papers, and we used mostly papers in our databases, but overall, we created those data sets. They are at Hugging Face, so everybody of you actually can use them and also make search in them. And then, so here is like the interface that you see that actually this question like about just cats and dogs, but you can see that it has multiple sources. It quotes where it takes the data, and you can click at any source and get information. And it was better output than Longevity GPT. And another thing actually is that for some questions like here, what was a longevity effect of ABCY5 gene on mice, it was better than ChatGPT because it's not that popular gene. And another thing that I actually can show you, and I preloaded before outside, is that, so here how it looks, you see that like where it is retrieved, annotation title, what is the context, what is the PubMed ID. And here you see the source actually is not a paper, because after some time, I realized that for some type of data, it's better to deal with actually some databases than with just literature. And this kind of agent, so it's a agent thinking, but actually we wrote a bunch of agents that can access those data sources. Okay, and yeah, and it's another example actually is when you search like for specific genotype, it's extremely hard to find it with similarity search, so you also need structural databases. So what actually are agents? So you want large language models because they are powerful to generate code and to manipulate databases. You want actually to use them so they can actually generate actions that you can execute to extract data from databases. And the most powerful, actually the most popular framework for that is called React. And it's actually very simple, is that you have large language model, you give it a task, it has like a thought. And the thought is, okay, how to approach this problem. And then it decides so you instructed it which actions it can take. So if it takes an action, it can actually tell like, I want to run the functions, and you run the functions because you read the actions that it needs. And then as the results of the functions are again given to the large language model as observation, and then it continues the cycle until it will be happy. And here you can see what actually was executed here. So the action, so it's thought, to answer this question, I need to use the RSID information tool to get information about RSID. And it just generated JSON, what it needs to do. Then agent manager is just in programming, we have like some class that monitors it. It found found this function, it executed it, it gave it observations. So this is like results, and actually before it explained how to read these results. And then after reading this stuff, the agent, okay, we have a thought that this result is actually moderate pro-longevity. And actually you can also monitor the stuff. So it's a screenshot from Langsmith, so you can actually modify the call. So executing agents means like multiple calls to large language models. And here is like how we write the tool. So you write like a lot of comments how you write how it should use this tool. And the code is actually small, and then it can actually use it. And yeah, so here are some other examples of other agents. So we had it on clinical trials, like to analyze clinical databases. And also agents are also used so to fix problems with math and logic. People figure out the way just generating Python code to solve computations and logic. It's called program-aided language models. And yeah, it's kind of, I find it ironic that, you know, we talk a lot about AI safety, but first thing that we did is we taught AI to access internet, to understand people, and to write code that probably can alter itself. And yeah, so this is for agents and for prompt engineering. Another thing that we have to touch upon is fine-tuning. And actually, when people think about like, how to apply this or that large language models, the first thought, okay, can we fine-tune it? So fine-tune is just you train it on specific tasks, but you tweak it, you don't like spend a lot of resources. And when we started, it was open source models were really bad. Now it's not the case. So again, I took it from Deep Learning AI course. We haven't yet finished fine-tuning, so it's more like for you to understand what is possible. And actually, ChatGPT is a fine-tuned foundational model. So originally, the model was just a completion of text, and then they tuned it to understand that you have to answer questions. And to look like if you select, so we looked what to select, and there is Hugging Face leaderboard. So you should look at this leaderboard to know what open source model is the best one, and also they give sizes. And second thing that is important is actually quantization. It's a way to, by using smaller floating types, to actually make models smaller, so you need less resources. And the other thing is that actually to save money on fine-tuning, you actually don't need to change whole model because it's expensive. You can just use some methods like adapters or like soft prompts. Like you add additional, like for adapters, you add like additional layers on top of models that are trained separately, and they are pretty small. For LoRa, you have some low-rank metrics for multiplication. It's called PEFT. And yeah, so that's the stuff we are looking at. And in terms of codes that we produced, we have a GitHub organization. Most of the stuff is about prompt engineering and agents. We have agents on GNH, NH, longevity variance. And we have like a bunch of repositories to pre-process papers, and also data sets that already pre-processed indexed vectorized papers. And so as a conclusion, so right now we are mostly doing it like in our spare time. We got a small donation from Vita DAO, but overall our major intent is actually we looked at how things are moving in open source large language models when, you know, there was this leak from Google, we have no mod. So they were afraid of open source models that would catch up. And we believe that probably there is also opportunity for open source models and applications for our domain, longevity and biology. But to utilize it, I believe that we have to have some community effort to actually concentrate some resources and manpower to move it forward, and so all of us will benefit from it. And with this, I want to thank everybody who participated. Actually, Maria Koval is here. Can you stand up? So you can see her. And yeah, and we had a lot of people who like participated at some point and then got busy after another. and we are very grateful for them. And also, right now, we have a small Gitcoin campaign when we are trying to get a little bit of donations to continue the work forward. And overall, we really hope that we will find a way to actually sustain it, because right now we don't really have, we're like doing it in our spare time. And thank you very much, and I am open for your questions.
Thank you, Anton. Thank you for putting it together. And we've got some questions.
Thank you, Anton. That's super interesting. I can't wait to play with it. I have a question. How far away are tools like this from being able to generate, say, genetic code? And I'm very interested in this kind of mix of machine learning and synthetic biology, and like going a step further from looking at the various databases and, say, promoters and repressors to building things.
Well, I think that we need like, the thing is like, so there are specific embeddings that are taught on DNA and taught on all types of omics data. I think maybe we need some communications between models, because like models, like general large language models, they are good, like for example, they can write code or they can make agents, and they can probably interact with more specialized models that are taught on different omics and different data. But I mean, it's not easy, but I see that transformer architecture is used pretty much everywhere right now. Yeah.
Thanks.
Hi, so right now you have primarily a retrieval-driven approach, right? And so I'm curious, if finances weren't an issue, tell us a bit about your fine-tuning plans. Do you have a task in mind? How do you scale this up if you, let's say, put a year of compute into this?
Well, the thing is, for fine-tuning, right now we looked like how it is done. We haven't started it. But overall, you have to first start with some specific use cases. You probably need around maybe 1,000 examples to see if things are getting better before doing any serious effort. What it can be good on it is that if you define use case, for example, what people used in models like Alpaca is that they used ChatGPT-4 to help them generate training data based on the prompts that they wrote. We actually haven't started fine-tuning, but first we just want to test some use cases if it is better than agents or prompt engineering on some tasks. Maybe if it, for example, fine-tuned on some types of papers. For example, there is Kalida project that extracts, so people there, they want to extract lifespan data from papers because it's very tedious curation work. If, for example, if we fine-tune a little bit on these papers, will it be better than writing a lot of prompts? I don't know. Maybe we can also play a bit with some genetic data, generate some sentences. So I haven't really started exactly fine-tuning it, so it's hard for me to say. What I can say is that we need use cases, and we see how it goes.
Great talk, Anton. Thank you. It sounds very promising, particularly about the area of your own research, which is in the genomics part. A couple of questions I have is, one, in terms of, you just talked about the fine-tuning, particularly for the use cases in genomics. What kind of data do you expect this might need to provide that training?
The thing is, I was actually thinking whether, because right now the models that were used, they just took a lot of scrapped internet data. Sometimes it was also papers that accidentally got there. I'm thinking if we, for example, make some pre-processing of scientific data, like we Actually, some pre-processing is already done by like semantic scholar datasets. They split its stuff into paragraphs. What if we, for example, annotate each paragraph with the source information and substitute all this like 1, 2, 3 links that make sense in a paper but not in small paragraphs, and try to fine-tune it, so when it answers, it will already answer with sources which paragraph is used. There were some actually attempts there in Semantic Scholar, but they had there, like it was long ago and it was pretty weak embedding. Also for embeddings, there is one interesting concept. It's called instruct embeddings, when you can actually tune with some prompt how embeddings should behave. I am not really good in this, but I think it's a promising thing to look if. So my major issue, I would say, get responses from from sources that are like already in the model, because the way how it is done now, actually, I can maybe even. I don't know if I have it opened, but it's actually you do a few shots learning, like you, for example, give examples. Actually, examples have nothing to do with biology. It's like examples that you got source and some paragraph, and that in the answer you should give, let me find where it is, give like source as a part. But it's more like you explain it what to do, it's not in the data. Yeah.
One more question.
Sorry, one other question. What are you planning to create with your longevity journey in the long term?
Well, so far we see that we get results that are better than longevity GPT of Nick Hill, and I think we want to first turn it into ChatGPT plugin, so we will not have to pay for API calls. And I don't know, I talked with Nick Hill. Actually, we can either deploy it somewhere, or Nick Hill can integrate it and just serve through his longevity GPT, because I see that actually it sometimes, as I gave an examples, give good sources. So it's kind of simple, but I see that it has some use case. And for things like genetics, we want to try, so we have like our genetic reports, and maybe we can generate summary based on the genetic reports that the user gets, but it's maybe further down the line.
So maybe you can expand your project to support by your AI for another genetic projects, for another longevity projects.
Well, I want, let's see it. I think actually one of the problems I want to highlight is that usually people think that if they put LLM, they will get some magic. But in fact, often you write some tools that it can use, and when it goes too far away from using combination of these tools, it cannot properly work with sources. So actually, if a community can write a lot of tools to deal with different APIs and sources, it can be quite helpful, but we need more people involved because it's a bit tedious work.
Awesome. Thank you. Didier, we have to move on, but you can catch Anton later. Anton, thank you very much.